Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a vertical video. I'm sorry, but this video is a complete experiment. What you're watching is me importing a DVR from my DJI goggles into my iPhone directly using this little dongle. I think it's called Leaf, where you plug in your SD card, micro SD card, and you can plug it into your iPhone with that lightning connector. And I'm using absolutely magical piece of software. It's called Luma Fusion. I did a few test edits, and the software is amazing. Like, it can do speed ramping, it does all the translation of the videos, of the clips, and you can have multiple tracks, and it does voiceovers, which is why you can hear my ums and ahs all the time, and it's just magical. So I hope you don't mind me talking for a very long time about a couple of things. The first thing is the Rotorama Calypso, the 5-inch quad that I'm flying at Rashovka here, which is not far from the town I live, Liberec, and that was yesterday. So on Sunday, went with my family that went to do some mushroom picking, but they didn't really find much, and I know that the mushroom picking itself is something that only Czechs do. Everybody else thinks we're weird. And I took it and I left them in the forest and went to fly this little build. You probably seen. If you haven't, please go ahead and watch the previous video that I uploaded, which is also from the Calypso. And it's also a DVR. This time you're watching the video in its original 4:3 aspect ratio, which is what I like to fly because it gives me the most view from the camera. But for the viewing experience, it's actually nicer to stretch it to super view. So I did stretch, and it's not just like linear stretch, it's an actual mimicking of what GoPro does with the super view. So it's just like gradually keeping the center intact and then just stretching the edges gradually. I can do a video about the methods that are available these days, because there's a couple of projects that allow you to do that. But to go back to what this video is about, so this is the sub 250 gram 5-inch quad. Now, do you need it? You absolutely do. Now, the purpose of this thing is that it's super light. You can get under the 250 grams if you use, I don't know if it's 650 or only 450 3S. So in this video that you're watching here, I'm definitely over, because I'm sporting the 3S lithium ion. So I have three 18650s, 1650s, 15, 18650s, set up in series, and they should be able to deliver 3 amp hours, but I've always only taken 2, so I got 17 minutes. I have to say that after like 15 minutes, you don't know what to do, unless you're flying in the mountains, which is something I'm gonna sadly touch on also. Unless you're flying in the mountains, you're never gonna be needing that long. So I'm just flying here at the sunset, and the great thing about this is that the quad makes barely any sound, and the sound it makes is just so lovely. Like, it's this low pitch I'm sporting a 3-blade 5-inch props now, so that makes really lovely sound. But even the bi-blades that usually sound horrible sound really nice on this quad, which is what made me make a mistake and take it straight to my vacation in Italy, which is the sad story. So I love to go to the Dolomite Mountains for skiing, but this year we also went, during summer, and it was beautiful. We had really lovely trips around the Trecima di Lavaredo. It was beautiful, and I did whip out my 3-inch and this 5-inch. So I got some footage. I'm gonna hopefully edit, and you're gonna see it. But I didn't test this properly. I really built it just a day before we went off, and I used the bi-blades, and I was hoping I'm gonna get better footage with the GoPro Session. So I put a Session on it, which I've successfully stabilized with Real Steady Go. Unfortunately, I don't know whether I mounted one of the propellers wrong, because that's an option. Somehow these motors that I'm running, the T-Motor 1507s, they have the T-Motor style prop, so you screw each prop with 2 screws, and I messed it up and it was angled probably, so I introduced a lot of vibrations, and the footage from the Real Steady Go is just not usable. But I'm gonna do something about it. I'm just gonna use it without the stabilization, maybe. So the footage from Dolomites is not very good. But you're looking at the Czech mountains, and that should be enough if the sunset, shines its magical light on it. I enjoyed this flight very much, but I have to say not as much as the one in the previous video where I took a bike ride, which is always good. Like, I recommend guys, just take a bike and take your drones with you in case you don't get to fly, or it sucks, or I don't know why you forget your goggle battery or something. You still went on a nice bike ride, so you're not coming home disappointed. So anyway, I really enjoyed the previous flight, because the evening was so still. Like, you can see some jitters in here because it was windy at some points of the flight, but the other night, it was beautiful. That was still. There was no sound anywhere. It was really magical. I really enjoyed that one. Anyway, what was I talking about? Yeah, the 5-inch. So it's very silent, which I like. It flies for a long time. Even if you don't use the lithium ion packs, which I only have one of because I don't like to solder, and I had my friend Easy solder it for me. Even if you use like a 1 amp hour 4S, which is another great setup that I use on this quad, you can still fly for 12 minutes. 12 minutes is more than enough to do a nice cruise in the countryside. What else? Oh yeah, so I have a couple of minutes time before the music kicks in, because this video is so terribly long. So one of the questions that I had when I posted this very DVR on the Facebook group that we hang out at was about the setup for the goggles and my radio. So what kind of antennas I'm running. So I've been running Crossfire for the longest time, and it's also a system that's been on the market for a very long time, and I'm no expert in antennas. It just freaking works for me. So I'm not telling you to throw away all your gear and go get Crossfire. It's just that I've been using it for a long time, and it's been super reliable. There's been some hiccups on TBS side in terms of the software and firmware. I remember waiting for the macOS agent application to update your firmware forever, but it did arrive and it works now. There's been some firmware releases that have been less than stellar. I remember having issues with the telemetry on the radio, but then they sorted it out. And I just don't tend to update. Oh yeah, there was also like the cooperation between OpenTX and Crossfire that was really terrible at one point, where you really weren't even able to bind the receivers unless you use the button of the transmitter itself. It was just icky, but they nailed it out. So I'm not actually touching the firmware all too often, unless I'm really forced to, like on a competition or something. So I didn't even update for the newest like Crossfire shot protocol fixes and stuff. So I'm not all that picky with my firmware. But generally, I don't even put link quality or RSSI on my OSD because I never fly, to the extremes, and I've never had a failsafe other than having a damaged antenna. And luckily, it failsafes very soon. Like I remember, I had my Futaba receiver with two chopped off antennas, and I flew like 200 meters until it's failsafed. Crossfire usually failsafe immediately if you have something with the antenna, which is a good thing because you don't want to fly a half a mountain to failsafe. So yeah, it's been very reliable in terms of antennas on the goggles. I do use the very expensive X-Airs, but I don't think you need them. The system is really good even if with the omnidirectionals. I think the patch antennas are really good for stuff like this, but I'm actually turning, I'm flying around myself to the north. Is it north? Well, anyway, one side, and then as I pass myself, I just turn to the other side. So those are directional antennas, but they're pretty decent even behind myself. I remember flying analog with I think it's the 5 dBi patch antennas from Immersion, the small ones, and they didn't work all too well behind yourself. But these guys, I'm flying 100 meters behind myself and it still works. So I don't know, it's magical antennas. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this little commentary about this little guy. I might do a proper video about it, but right now I'm really enjoying this no-nonsense workflow. So maybe I'll do more of these in the meantime. If you like this, please let me know. If you hate this and you want, the typical high production value production that you're used to, but I only do a couple of videos a year, then let me know as well. Take care.